The world became a quiet place after Sarah left. Not the kind of quiet that means peace, but the kind that feels like a heavy blanket, muffling everything. My home, a small house in the American Midwest, used to echo with her laughter, the clatter of her baking, the sound of her humming as she watered the plants. Now, it just held the ghosts of those sounds, a constant reminder of what was gone. I'd walk through rooms, and the silence would feel so thick, I could almost taste it, like dust. Sunlight, when it streamed through the windows, would just highlight the motes dancing in the air, each speck a tiny shimmering reminder of time passing without her. The only real sound was the insistent tick-tock of the old grandfather clock in the hall, a relentless beat against the quiet hum of my own solitary existence. I spent my days surrounded by old books, their familiar scent a small comfort. But even that felt like fading memories, just like everything else. Then things started. Little things at first, easy to brush off. A flicker in the kitchen light just for a second. I'd blame the old wiring, or maybe a faulty bulb. A faint creak upstairs when no one was there. The house settling, I'd tell myself, even though the house hadn't settled like that in years. But these small happenings started to pile up, creating a feeling I couldn't shake. It wasn't menacing, not like a haunting, but more like a gentle, persistent presence. A feeling of being watched, not with judgment, but with an intense, almost curious attention. I'd turn my head sharply, convinced I'd catch a glimpse of something, but there was never anything there. Just the quiet, the dust motes, and the ticking clock. My rational mind, or what was left of it after the grief, tried to dismiss it all as just that. Grief. My mind playing tricks, conjuring things out of loneliness. It was easier to believe that than face something stranger. But then the dreams started. They weren't like normal dreams, fuzzy and forgettable. These were sharp, vivid, almost more real than waking life. And in them, Sarah was there. Not just a memory of her, but her. Her voice, clear and resonant, like she was right beside me. We'd talk, just like we used to. She'd smile, touch my arm. It was both a profound comfort and deeply unsettling. These weren't just replays of old conversations. She started to give me messages, fragmented words, cryptic warnings. There was a sense of urgency in her dream voice, a feeling that something important was coming, and I needed to pay attention. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, her words echoing in my head, feeling a strange mix of profound confusion and a dawning sense of purpose I couldn't yet name. The emotional impact was immense. The comfort of seeing her again was always tangled with the unsettling nature of her cryptic messages. The weirdness didn't stay confined to my dreams. It bled into my waking life, too, in the form of numbers. Everywhere I looked, certain sequences appeared. I'd glance at the clock, and it would be 11:11 or 3:33. I'd see them on license plates, on receipts, in the page numbers of books I randomly opened. At first, I thought it was just confirmation bias, my brain looking for patterns. But it happened too often, too consistently. These synchronistic events started to create a growing sense of a hidden order, like the world was a tapestry, slowly revealing its design. It felt like a guiding force. A preordained path was somehow unfolding around me, and I was being nudged along it. It was like the universe itself was trying to get my attention, using these numerical breadcrumbs to lead me somewhere. Even nature seemed to be in on it. Birds would gather in my backyard, not just in random flocks, but in distinct patterns, almost like formations. Deer usually shy, would appear at unexpected moments, standing still and looking directly at me for a long time before vanishing back into the woods. The natural world around my quiet home started to feel alive in a new way, like it was communicating, reflecting the inner shift happening within me. I found myself looking at the world with a heightened awareness, seeing patterns and connections I'd never noticed before. The rustle of leaves, the way the light hit the trees, everything felt imbued with a new, subtle meaning. It was like I was seeing the world through a different lens, less muted by grief and more vibrant, more connected. All these things, the unsettling quiet, the subtle presences, Sarah's vivid dream messages, the repeating numbers, the strange behavior of animals, they all pointed to something. Something beyond grief, beyond coincidence. Was I simply losing my mind, caught in the undertow of loneliness and loss, or was something far more profound happening? I couldn't shake the growing conviction that I was being prepared for something monumental. The question lingered, a quiet hum beneath the surface of my everyday life, growing louder with each passing day. What was it all leading to? What was I being prepared for? The dreams kept coming, but they changed. Sarah's direct messages faded, replaced by something more abstract. The dreams became less about conversation and more about symbolic visions. I saw ancient symbols I didn't recognize, celestial maps that twisted and turned in impossible ways, and unknown scripts that glowed with an inner light. It was like watching a silent film from another dimension. These visions weren't always comforting. Sometimes they left me feeling drained, exhausted, even when I'd slept for hours. But beneath the tiredness, there was an insatiable curiosity, a hunger to understand what my subconscious was trying to show me. My mind felt like a canvas being slowly painted with images from a world I didn't know, yet somehow felt connected to. Then one night, everything shifted. In a dream, Sarah's voice wasn't speaking English anymore. It was a strange, guttural language, unlike anything I'd ever heard. Yet, it wasn't jarring. Instead, it resonated deep within me, a vibration in my bones, a sound that felt both utterly alien and profoundly familiar, like a memory I couldn't quite grasp. The words weren't clear, but the feeling they carried was undeniable. A message, a key, something vital. I woke up with my heart pounding, the strange sounds still echoing in my ears, an almost subconscious urge to understand them, a pull towards this ancient tongue. It felt like a forgotten memory was stirring, a part of me waking up that had been dormant for a very long time. That morning, the strange guttural language was still buzzing in my head. I couldn't shake it. I felt an almost compulsive need to identify those sounds. I started with frantic online searches, typing in descriptions of the sounds, trying to match them to any known language. Hours bled into days. I visited local libraries, digging through linguistics books, something I'd never done before. My apartment became a mess of notes and open books. It was an obsession, a frantic chase to put a name to the echoing sounds. Then, late one night, I stumbled upon it. Sumerian cuneiform. The images and phonetic descriptions matched the sounds I'd heard in my dream. Sumerian, an ancient language from Mesopotamia, thousands of years old. The shock was immense. This wasn't random. It felt like a direct instruction, a piece of a larger puzzle falling into place. My rational mind screamed that it was impossible, a coincidence, but my gut knew better. What happened next was even stranger. I started trying to learn Sumerian, and I could. Not like a normal person struggling with a new language, but with an uncanny aptitude. The words, the symbols, they felt natural, intuitive. It was as if I already knew them, and I was just remembering. I devoured online courses, ancient texts, anything I could find. My progress was shockingly fast. This rapid acquisition further fueled that growing sense of destiny, of a higher purpose unfolding before me. My rational mind was still fighting it, trying to find logical explanations, but my intuitive self was fully embracing it, recognizing the profound significance of this gift. It was a clear sign that I was on the right path, no matter how unbelievable it seemed. As my Sumerian knowledge grew, I began to translate actual ancient texts. And that's when things got truly unsettling. I found uncanny parallels to my own experiences, to the cryptic messages from Sarah in my dreams. Prophecies of cosmic shifts, warnings about humanity's choices, and most chillingly, references to star beings and their interactions with early human civilizations. These weren't just dusty old stories. They felt alive, relevant. The chilling realization hit me. These ancient texts might be directly relevant to my present, to the strange events unfolding around me. It was like a roadmap, laid out millennia ago, and I was just now learning to read it. The more I translated, the more I understood that my personal journey was intertwined with something much, much larger. Then, the final piece of the puzzle, the catalyst that pushed me past mere understanding and into action. A news report. It was vague, buried deep in the evening broadcast, talking about an unidentified aerial phenomenon that had been captured by NASA. The details were scarce. Official statements were full of denials and dismissals, but there was an underlying current of hushed excitement and fear in the way the anchors spoke, a collective holding of breath. A powerful, undeniable intuition hit me like a physical blow. This event, this captured anomaly, was connected to my journey, to the Sumerian language, to everything I had been experiencing. It was the convergence of my personal spiritual awakening with a global, unprecedented event. All the signs, all the dreams, all the numbers, all the ancient words, they had been leading me here. I knew with absolute certainty that I had to go. All the signs, all the dreams, all the numbers, all the ancient words, they had been leading me here. I knew with absolute certainty that I had to go. The news report acted like a powerful beacon, pulling me with an irresistible force towards the location of the captured entity. It wasn't a choice, not really. It felt like predestination, as if every single event in my life, every flicker of light, every whispered dream, every Sumerian word I'd learned had been meticulously arranged to bring me to this exact moment. There was an overwhelming sense of duty, a calling I couldn't ignore, even as fear gnawed at the edges of my resolve. What was I even going to do once I got there? How would I get in? These questions were secondary to the deep-seated conviction that I simply had to be there. My journey to the restricted zone was a blur of frantic planning and desperate measures. I drained my savings, bought a beat-up old car, and drove for days, fueled by coffee and an unshakable sense of urgency. As I got closer, the landscape changed. The open roads gave way to checkpoints, then more checkpoints, each one manned by increasingly serious-looking individuals. I navigated them with a mix of practiced nonchalance and sheer luck, often pretending to be a contractor or a lost tourist. The air grew colder as I drove deeper into the remote desert. The kind of cold that bites right through your clothes, even in the middle of the night. The only sounds were the hum of distant generators, a low, constant thrum that vibrated through the ground, and the whisper of the wind carrying fine sand. The NASA facility itself was an imposing sight, even from a distance. A sprawling complex of stark, windowless buildings, all concrete and steel, surrounded by multiple layers of fencing topped with razor wire. Floodlights cut harsh lines across the darkness, revealing watchtowers and patrols. The architecture screamed secrecy, a fortress built to hold something profoundly important or profoundly dangerous. I felt a pervasive sense of being watched, not just by the security cameras I knew were everywhere, but by something more, something unseen, guiding my path through the shadows. It felt like I was being allowed to get this far, that some unseen hand was parting the way just enough. Infiltrating the perimeter was a tense, nerve-wracking ordeal. I moved under the cover of darkness, relying on instincts I didn't know I possessed. I saw glimpses of advanced technology, radar dishes slowly sweeping the sky, vehicles I couldn't identify, and military personnel moving with a disciplined, almost robotic efficiency. The atmosphere was thick with intense secrecy, a palpable tension that hung in the cold night air. Every shadow seemed to hide a guard, every sound a potential alarm. Yet I continued to slip through, almost effortlessly, as if the facility itself was a puzzle designed for me to solve. Then I saw it. Not a direct view of the alien itself, but a fleeting, indirect glimpse of its containment. It was deep within the facility, a massive, reinforced structure unlike any other. I could feel its presence even from a distance, a ripple in the air, a distortion in the natural order of things. There was an immense energy emanating from that place, a faint, almost imperceptible light that pulsed rhythmically, a living beacon in the heart of the sterile complex. The sheer scale of the technology designed to hold it was terrifying, yet also awe-inspiring. It was clearly something beyond human comprehension, something that required extraordinary measures to contain. My heart hammered in my chest, a mix of fear and a strange sense of recognition. It felt like coming home, even though I knew I had never been here before. The emotional impact was profound, a blend of terror at the unknown, awe at its power, and a deep, unsettling familiarity. As I moved deeper, a chance encounter, or perhaps a deliberate opening, presented itself. I found an access panel left ajar, an unlocked door in a place where nothing should ever be unlocked. It felt too convenient, almost like an invitation. I hesitated for a moment, my rational mind screaming about the impossibility, the sheer absurdity of it all. But then, the whispers of Sarah, the repeating numbers, the Sumerian words echoing in my mind, they pushed me forward. It wasn't just my internal intuition anymore. It felt like external forces were at play, orchestrating my every move. It was clear I was being guided, not just by a vague feeling, but by something powerful and intelligent. The weight of the secret I was about to confront settled heavily on my shoulders. The profound implications of what I was about to attempt were staggering. The potential danger to myself, the global consequences if I failed, or if this information was mishandled, and the personal sacrifice I was making by stepping into this unknown, it was all overwhelming. Yet, I held on to the conviction that I was the only one who could bridge the gap, the only one who had been prepared for this moment. I had the language, the dreams, the signs. I had to try. The Sumerian words burned on my tongue, a silent prayer, a potent weapon, a key. I was now in a position to encounter the alien, to speak to it, to fulfill the purpose I had been unknowingly preparing for all this time. The air crackled with anticipation, and I took a deep breath, ready to step into the unknown. I pushed through the unlocked door, stepping into a narrow, dimly lit corridor. The air immediately felt different here, heavy and thick, almost metallic. It hummed with a low, resonant frequency that vibrated in my teeth. The sterile smell of disinfectant mixed with something else, something I couldn't quite place, but it was alien and sharp. I moved cautiously, following the faint glow I had seen earlier. The corridor opened into a vast chamber, far larger than anything I had expected. It was a sterile, cold space, all polished steel and reinforced glass, humming with unseen energy. Lights, bright and clinical, cast long, stark shadows. The pressure in the air was overwhelming, a feeling of density and power that pushed against my chest. And there it was. In the center of the chamber, suspended within a field of shimmering energy, was the being. It wasn't what I had imagined, not a creature of flesh and bone in the way we understand it. It was an entity of profound beauty and ethereal presence, a form made of pure light, constantly shifting and flowing like liquid starlight. There were no grotesque features, no familiar limbs or eyes. Instead, it was an ever-changing kaleidoscope of colors, subtle movements, an aura of ancient wisdom rather than a fixed physical form. It pulsed gently, a silent cosmic beacon. There was an unsettling lack of familiarity, a completely different biological or energetic structure that defied all human understanding. My breath hitched in my throat. Awe, reverence, and a deep sense of humility washed over me. It was breathtaking, terrifying, and utterly magnificent. Around the perimeter of this containment field, I saw the NASA scientists. They were a flurry of activity, though their movements seemed futile. Monitors glowed with indecipherable data, wires snaked across the floor, and various advanced instruments were pointed at the being. I watched them for a moment, hidden in the shadows near the entrance. They were trying to communicate, using every tool at their disposal. I heard snippets of their conversations, their frustration palpable. "No response from the vocalization analysis," one said, typing furiously. "Mathematical sequences yield no coherent patterns," another reported, running a hand through his hair. "We've tried every known language, every dialect, every digital encoding. Nothing." Their voices were tight with desperation, their faces etched with exhaustion. They were brilliant minds, no doubt, but they were hitting a wall, a profound communication barrier that their technology and human logic couldn't breach. It was clear to me then that their methods were fundamentally flawed. They were trying to speak to a cosmic entity using earthly dictionaries. The weight of my purpose settled onto me with renewed force. This was it. This was why Sarah had guided me, why the numbers had appeared, why I had learned Sumerian. Every sign, every dream, every whisper had led me to this sterile chamber, to this moment. Fear of ridicule, fear of failure, fear of the unknown. It all pressed in on me. What if I was wrong? What if it didn't work? What if this was all some elaborate delusion born from grief? But then, the memory of Sarah's voice, clear as day in my mind, speaking those strange, guttural words, the repeating numbers, a constant reminder of a guiding hand, the ancient texts, filled with prophecies that now seemed chillingly real. All of it culminated in this single, terrifying, exhilarating act. I had to try. I had to speak. I stepped out of the shadows, my footsteps echoing loudly in the sudden silence of the chamber. Heads snapped towards me, eyes wide with disbelief and anger. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" a man in a lab coat shouted, his face reddening. Security guards began to move, their hands instinctively going to their weapons. But I ignored them. My gaze was fixed on the luminous being in the center of the room. My heart was pounding, a drumbeat against the overwhelming hum of the chamber. I took a deep breath, the metallic air filling my lungs. Then I spoke. My voice, at first, was a little shaky, but it grew stronger with each word, finding a deep resonance I hadn't known it possessed. The ancient sounds of Sumerian filled the sterile chamber, guttural and melodic, echoing off the steel walls. Anki ane, en lila sageba abduga, I said, the words flowing naturally, as if they were my native tongue. Dingir galgal ine sagkalbinene. I continued, invoking the ancient names, the old greetings, the cosmic pleas for understanding that had been passed down through millennia. The deep resonance of the ancient language vibrated through the air, a living thing. An immediate, palpable shift occurred in the atmosphere. It wasn't a sudden explosion or a dramatic movement, but a ripple of energy, a subtle yet profound change that swept through the chamber. The being of light, which had been subtly pulsing, now focused. Its light intensified, a soft, warm glow spreading outwards. A low hum, distinct from the chamber's own, emanated from it, a sound that seemed to resonate deep within my very bones. The scientists, who had been moving to apprehend me, froze. Their instruments, which had been displaying flat lines and static, suddenly flickered. Alarms started to chirp softly, then louder, as data streams spiked wildly, registering something new, something unprecedented. Their faces, moments ago filled with anger, were now slack with stunned confusion. All eyes were on the alien, and then, slowly, on me. The room fell completely silent, save for the hum of the chamber and the soft, resonant vibration from the being. The impossible had just become real, the first sign of connection. It had worked. The alien responded, not with words I could hear with my ears, but with a rush of light and energy. It was like a door opening directly into my mind. Images, feelings, and pure knowledge flooded me all at once. The light from the being pulsed brighter, casting strange, shifting shadows across the sterile chamber. The scientists around us, who had been frozen in disbelief, now started to stir, their shock turning into something else, something closer to awe, mixed with a frantic kind of energy. Their equipment, which had just moments ago registered spikes, now seemed to be going completely haywire. Screens flashed with unreadable symbols, alarms chirped and wailed, then abruptly silenced themselves as if overwhelmed. I heard gasps, hushed murmurs, then a sudden profound quiet as everyone tried to make sense of what was happening. It was chaos and stillness all at once, a moment stretched thin between the impossible and the undeniable. The communication wasn't a conversation in the way we understand it. It was a torrent, a pure download of information that bypassed language entirely. My consciousness felt like it was expanding, stretching beyond its usual limits. I saw things, felt things, understood things that were beyond anything I could have ever imagined. It was as if a dam had broken, and an entire ocean of cosmic history poured into my mind. I saw star maps, not as flat images, but as living, breathing constellations, pathways between worlds. I witnessed the birth of ancient civilizations, not just on Earth, but across vast stretches of the universe. I saw our own planet, a tiny blue marble, connected to everything else by invisible threads of energy and purpose. The alien showed me visions of humanity's true origins, not the simple stories we tell ourselves, but a complex tapestry woven with stardust and ancient wisdom. It wasn't about a single point of creation, but a long, intricate journey, influenced by beings and forces we couldn't even begin to comprehend. I understood that our myths, our legends, weren't just stories. They were fragmented memories, echoes of a shared past that had been forgotten. The sheer scale of it was overwhelming, exhilarating, and terrifying. It was a spiritual download, a direct connection to a universal consciousness that left me feeling both tiny and infinitely vast. Then, the alien focused on the language. It confirmed what I had instinctively felt. Sumerian was indeed a seed language, not just an ancient earthly tongue, but a fundamental key, a universal grammar that resonated across different species and dimensions. It was a language of pure intent, of creation itself. And then it showed me Sarah, not as a ghost or a memory, but as an active participant, a guide whose spirit was intricately woven into this cosmic mission. Her messages, her whispers, the dreams, the repeating numbers, they weren't just signs for me. They were preparations, not only for my personal journey, but for humanity's awakening. A profound sense of gratitude washed over me, mixed with an understanding that went beyond words. My grief, which had been a heavy cloak, now felt like a pathway, a transformation. Sarah had not left me. She had simply moved to a different plane of existence, continuing her work, guiding me to this very moment. The communication shifted, becoming more urgent. I was shown visions, not of the past, but of potential futures. Warnings. Humanity's current trajectory, the alien conveyed, was leading us down a dangerous path. I saw visions of dystopian landscapes, not just environmental collapse, but a spiritual emptiness, a disconnection from the very essence of life. It was a stark image of what would happen if we continued to pursue power over wisdom, greed over compassion. But it also showed me the concept of parallel realities, of divergent timelines. We weren't locked into this future. The choices we made now, at this very moment, were critical. Each decision, each thought, each act of kindness or cruelty pushed us towards one future or another. The weight of this knowledge settled on me, a heavy cloak of responsibility. I was not just an observer, I was now a messenger, burdened with a truth that could change everything. Despite the dire warnings, the alien also conveyed a message of immense hope. It showed me humanity's unique role in the cosmic tapestry, our incredible capacity for spiritual evolution, our potential to connect not just with each other, but with the entire universe. It spoke of an impending awakening, a collective shift in consciousness that was within our grasp if we chose the right path. We had the potential to become something truly magnificent, to take our rightful place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as conscious creators. I felt a profound sense of destiny, not just for myself, but for all of humankind. We were at a crossroads, and the information I was receiving was the map, the guide, the catalyst for that choice. The alien concluded by emphasizing that the choice for humanity's future rested entirely with us. This information, this profound glimpse behind the veil, was a catalyst. It was meant to shake us awake, to make us see the path we were on and the glorious potential that awaited us if we dared to choose it. The communication faded, not abruptly, but like a tide receding, leaving behind an afterglow, a residue of pure knowledge in my mind. I was left standing there, changed, holding truths that could either save or doom us. The weight of this knowledge, the urgent need to share it, and the immediate implications for the NASA team, for the world, pressed down on me. What would I do now? What could I do? The fate of humanity, or at least its awareness, felt like it rested on my shoulders. The communication ended, but the silence that followed was anything but empty. It was thick with the weight of revelation, a hum of residual energy that vibrated through the sterile chamber. The NASA scientists, who just moments before had been frantic with their instruments and theories, were now motionless, their faces a mixture of bewilderment and profound awe. Their equipment, which had registered frantic, uninterpretable data during the telepathic torrent, now settled into an unsettling calm, as if even the machines understood the magnitude of what had just transpired. I saw their eyes, wide and unblinking, fixed on me. The power dynamics in the room had shifted entirely. I, the unexpected intruder, the man who had stumbled into their highly classified world with an ancient language, was now their indispensable bridge, their only link to the cosmic truth. The head scientist, a woman named Dr. Eris Thorne, slowly approached, her usual guarded demeanor replaced by an expression of pure astonishment. Her voice, when she spoke, was barely a whisper. What just happened? She didn't ask me, but the question hung in the air, a collective cry for understanding. I took a deep breath, the cosmic truths still swirling in my mind, trying to find the human words to articulate the aliens' direct message to humanity. It was a call for unity, a plea for spiritual introspection, a stark warning against the self-destructive paths we were currently treading. The alien had emphasized our interconnectedness, the illusion of separation that plagued our species, and the immense, untapped power of collective consciousness. It had shown me how our world was a living organism, and our actions, both good and bad, rippled through the entire cosmic fabric. Trying to translate these complex, multi-dimensional concepts into simple, linear human language felt like trying to pour an ocean into a teacup. I began to speak, my voice hoarse at first, then gaining strength as the alien's message flowed through me. I explained the warnings of a fragmented future, the potential for spiritual stagnation, but also the incredible hope that lay within our grasp if we chose a different path. I felt profoundly changed by the direct communion. It was more than just receiving information. It was an expansion of my very being. My senses were heightened. The fluorescent lights in the chamber seemed to pulse with hidden energy. The sterile air tasted different, alive. My consciousness felt vast, no longer confined to the boundaries of my own skin. The world, even this contained artificial environment, appeared differently. It was imbued with new meaning, a tapestry of interconnectedness that I had never perceived before. The grief for Sarah, which had been a constant companion, now felt transformed into a powerful, guiding presence. It was as if I had shed an old skin, reborn into a deeper understanding of reality, embracing a higher purpose. A sense of peace settled over me, a quiet knowing that transcended earthly concerns. But this elevated state also brought a stark awareness of the immediate concerns of the NASA and military personnel. I could see the wheels turning in their minds, the inherent human instinct to control, to weaponize, or to suppress what was not understood. I heard hushed conversations about containment, national security, and the potential for global panic. The danger of this information falling into the wrong hands was palpable, a heavy cloud threatening to overshadow the light of the alien's message. The tension between sharing this cosmic truth and protecting it from misuse became a central, urgent dilemma. I knew that the powers that be would try to control the narrative, to filter it through their own limited understanding, perhaps even to twist it for their own gain. I had to be careful, to be strategic, As these thoughts raced through my mind, I felt a subtle shift in the alien's presence. It wasn't a physical change, but an energetic one, a fading, a receding. It was as if its immediate purpose had been fulfilled, its message delivered. The slight luminescence that had emanated from its form seemed to dim, and the air around it, which had been vibrating with an almost tangible energy, began to normalize. There was a sense of its transient nature, its role as a messenger or catalyst, now drawing to a close. A lingering question about its true origin and ultimate destination flickered in my mind, but it was quickly overshadowed by a more immediate and urgent concern. The alien imparted a final, urgent mandate to me. It wasn't a spoken command, but a deep, resonant knowing that settled in my soul. I was to share this truth. I was to be a beacon. The responsibility pressed down on me with an incredible weight, transforming me, a solitary individual, into a cosmic messenger. The alien's purpose was done, but mine was just beginning. I understood that the choice for humanity's future truly rested with us, and my role was to empower that choice. The immediate implications for the NASA team, for the world, were immense. The alien was gone, or at least its direct communication had ceased, leaving me with an urgent mandate and an uncertain future. What would I do now? How would I deliver this message? The fate of humanity's awareness, its potential to awaken, now rested squarely on my shoulders. I had to find a way to share these truths, to ignite the awakening the alien spoke of, no matter the cost. The alien's presence diminished, leaving behind an echoing silence that seemed to reverberate in the very core of the chamber. A faint, almost imperceptible energetic imprint lingered in the air, like the ghost of a powerful current. The NASA team, once a picture of scientific composure, was now a tableau of controlled chaos. Their faces, usually etched with analytical focus, were a mixture of awe, bewilderment, and a dawning, terrifying understanding. They moved with a hurried, almost frantic energy, trying to process what had just happened, their instruments still blinking with anomalous data. But the focus, immediately and undeniably, shifted to me. I was no longer just the unexpected interpreter. I was the key, the only conduit to the incomprehensible truths that had just been unveiled. Their eyes, once filled with suspicion, now held a desperate, almost pleading intensity. The ringing silence in the chamber, punctuated by the soft hum of machinery and the faint smell of ozone, was heavy with unspoken questions. I could feel their collective gaze, a physical weight pressing down on me. Without a word, I was gently but firmly escorted from the chamber. There was no aggression, no force, but an undeniable sense of urgency in their movements. I was immediately taken for what would become an extensive debriefing, isolated from the outside world. The room they brought me to was comfortable, almost luxurious, but the underlying message was clear. I was not free to leave. Intense questioning began almost immediately. Teams of psychologists, linguists, and military intelligence officers took turns, then converged, trying to understand, to quantify, to control the information I now carried. They probed my memories, my motivations, my sanity. My new, expanded consciousness, however, made me a difficult subject. I could see through their strategies, anticipate their questions, and understand the limitations of their frameworks. It was like trying to fit the ocean into a teacup. The emotional toll was immense. Exhaustion gnawed at me, a deep weariness that went beyond physical fatigue. Frustration mounted as I tried to explain concepts that simply didn't exist in their scientific lexicon. How could I describe the feeling of interconnectedness the fluid nature of time, or the consciousness of a star, to minds trained in linear logic and empirical evidence. Yet, despite the drain, an unwavering resolve burned within me. I had to protect this truth, to ensure its purity was not corrupted by fear or misunderstanding. I knew the fragile nature of human perception, how easily profound truths could be twisted into something mundane or even dangerous. During these stretches of isolation, when the interrogations paused, my connection to the cosmic truth the alien had revealed only deepened. It was as if the direct communion had permanently altered my internal landscape. I experienced more vivid visions, not just of the warnings about humanity's potential downfalls, but also of a potential glorious future. I saw humanity thriving, united, exploring the cosmos not as conquerors, but as conscious participants in a galactic community. These visions reinforced the aliens' message of hope, reminding me that humanity's inherent power to choose our path was real and tangible. My spiritual awakening, initiated by Sarah's whispers and the ancient language, continued to solidify, making me more resilient, more certain of my purpose. Meanwhile, I could sense the discussions, the frantic debates among the authorities, about managing the impending global disclosure. I picked up fragments of conversations, heard hushed tones about containment protocols and public messaging strategies. The fear of panic, of societal collapse, and the potential for exploitation if this information was mishandled, was palpable even in my isolated state. There was an intense internal debate within the powers that be, the military leaders, the government officials, the top scientists, about how much to reveal, and crucially, how to frame it. They wrestled with the implications, the potential for religious upheaval, economic chaos, and a complete reordering of human society. I understood the immense pressure they were under, and the delicate balance required to introduce such a paradigm-shifting truth to a world unprepared for it. Yet, despite the challenges, despite the isolation and the relentless questioning, a profound sense of purpose solidified within me. I realized my role was not just to relay the message, to be a mere messenger. I was to embody the change, to live the truth the alien had imparted. The echoes of my wife's voice, the repeating numbers, the synchronicities that had guided me here, all now made profound sense. They weren't just guiding lights, they were the foundation of my new existence, the bedrock of my resolve. I knew, with absolute certainty, that I stood at a precipice. I was about to make a decision that would impact humanity's future, a choice between silence and revelation. The weight of that choice was immense, but the clarity of my path was even greater. The choice was clear, even if the path was fraught with danger. I would not allow this profound truth, this cosmic understanding, to be buried or twisted by fear. My decision to act wasn't born of rebellion, but of a spiritual imperative, a deep conviction forged by the alien's message and my wife's enduring guidance. The risks were immense, the personal cost potentially devastating, but the alternative, allowing humanity to remain ignorant of its true potential and the urgent choices before it, was simply unthinkable. I had to share what I knew, no matter the consequences. I couldn't just walk out and announce it to the world. The authorities had made it clear that any direct attempt would be met with swift and decisive action. So, I started subtly. My first move was to reach out to a journalist I had met years ago, someone known for their integrity and a quiet defiance of official narratives. I didn't give her everything at once. Instead, I provided carefully selected fragments, hints of a story so big it would challenge everything she thought she knew. I sent encrypted files containing snippets of the translated Sumerian texts, alongside vague mentions of anomalous energy readings from a highly classified NASA facility. I knew she would connect the dots, or at least be intrigued enough to start digging. It was a slow, undeniable drip of truth, designed to plant seeds of doubt and curiosity in the collective consciousness. I also started posting cryptic messages online, using the numerical patterns Sarah had shown me as a kind of signature. These weren't direct disclosures, but rather breadcrumbs for those ready to see them, those already feeling the stirrings of something more. My story, my transformation, became a catalyst. The initial reactions were exactly as predicted. Skepticism reigned. My journalist friends' early reports were met with ridicule, dismissed as conspiracy theories, or attributed to a grieving man's delusion. Yet something else happened. A profound resonance began to spread among a growing segment of the population. The signs I had experienced, the synchronicity, the repeating numbers, the feeling of an unseen presence, began to appear for others. People started sharing their own inexplicable experiences online, forming communities around these emergent phenomena. The 1111s and 333s were no longer just random clock readings. They were becoming shared experiences, threads in a new tapestry. It was a slow, organic awakening, a collective expansion of consciousness. People, inspired by my bravery and the sheer audacity of the cosmic truth, began to connect the dots. They looked at the world differently, questioned established narratives, and started seeking their own deeper truths. The spiritual shift had begun to manifest globally, not with a bang, but with a quiet, persistent hum. The aliens' warnings about divergent timelines became clearer, more urgent, but also more hopeful. Humanity, faced with these subtle revelations, was now making conscious choices. The trajectory was shifting. Instead of heading towards a dystopian future, I saw glimpses of a more harmonious, interconnected world. A new humanity emerging from the ashes of old paradigms. My role, once that of a mere messenger, now shifted to that of a guide, helping others navigate their own awakenings, to understand the profound implications of what they were experiencing. The world was still imperfect, still grappling with old fears and divisions, but the overall direction had demonstrably shifted. We were, finally, choosing a path of unity and conscious evolution. My personal journey of grief, which had once felt like an endless void, had transformed into a journey of cosmic purpose. Sarah's memory was honored not by mourning her loss, but by fulfilling a shared destiny, a mission she had guided me towards from beyond the veil. I had become a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of individual awakening and universal connection. The emotional arc of my life, once defined by profound loss, now concluded with a deep sense of peace, fulfillment, and an enduring purpose that transcended my individual existence. I was no longer just me. I was a part of something infinitely larger. This is not the end of the story, but merely the dawn of a new chapter for humanity. The journey of human evolution is ongoing, and the choices we make today will shape our tomorrow. I invite you, the audience, to recognize the signs in your own lives, to seek your own truth, and to participate actively in this collective awakening. Look for the synchronicities, listen to the whispers of your intuition, and question what you have always been told. This is just the beginning of our story, one that we are all writing together, moment by moment. Subscribe to stay connected as we uncover more truths about our cosmic destiny, about who we are, and what we are truly capable of becoming. The universe is speaking, and it's time we all started listening.